Eve, the caller came out. One terrifying night of unspeakable evil. New Year's Evil.
Rated R. Now playing at a theater or drive-in near you.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hey, friends! I know what you're thinking. How could these guys get any more annoying? Well, tonight we're going to be extra because it's New Year's Evil time.
Yes, it is.
At Do You Even Movie? I'm, of course, your host, Henrique Couto, here with Double D, David Louis Denoyer, Esquire Alphonse.
You having fun with that over there?
No. I do not do this show for enjoyment. I strictly do this as a kind of educational thing. So this is all about education here at Do You Even Movie. So, but we're going to be talking about a New Year's film.
Yes, we are.
And one of the most notorious New Year's films of all time, New Year's Evil. Now, I would not be surprised if many people listening to this or watching us are not aware of New Year's Evil because it kind of came and went. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong at all. It was one of those for me that when I first found it, it was only available as a burn on demand, and then it was magically available on Netflix. And that's like 2015, 2014.
Yeah, you're going to have to get used to that. Yeah, I mean, I had heard about it simply from Googling New Year's horror.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I never heard about it much. So what year did this come out?
So this is 1980 on the nose.
1980. Okay, so it was the end of the 70s.
Yeah.
There are ample disco balls in display to show that this would be the end of the 70s.
This is very true. This movie's not dated at all.
Not even a little bit. This film ages like a fine wine, my man.
Oh my God.
So, well, shoot, what are the pertinent deets on New Year's Evil?
All right, so we're talking about New Year's Evil from 1980.
Okay, I'll stop doing that.
1 hour.
If I don't stop it now, I never will.
You never will.
I was hitting him with the
1 hour and 25 minutes, rated R. This is directed and partially written by Emmett Alston. He was a cinematographer for a film called Moonchild in 1972, as well as another film called Country Blue in 73. He's the director and writer listed on Three-Way Weekend in 79, Nine Deaths of the Ninja in 1985.
Wait, Three-Way Weekend, that sounds like, what is that, like a kid's adventure?
You know,
like Three-Way Weekend.
And he was also the director of Tiger Shark in 87, Demon Warp in 88, and Force of the Ninja in 88. Going back to the writer, like I said, he was partial writer on it, but then our main writer is Leonard Newbar. He was on Fugitive from Justice in 1940, Lady Wants Mink in 53, Run for the Hills in 1953 as well, The Millionaire TV Show in 1956, M Squad in 60, Black Snake in 73. This was the only movie he wrote in the 80s. I don't know. I think he had passed by that point shortly after this.
He was a veteran,
journeyman of TV. I mean, he had a lot of TV work on his resume and very little film work. He only had this and like one other film that I can think of.
Well, TV is where the money, especially back then. That was where the money was. If you wanted consistent checks, you worked in television, especially in writing rooms, because television is a writer's medium.
Yeah. No, 100%. And the cinematographer on this is Thomas E. Ackerman. He also was a camera operator on Moonchild in 1972, probably where he met Emmett. He also did Talfamage Farlow in 81, Roadhouse 66 in 84, DP on Frankenweenie, the Tim Burton one in 84 as well. Then from here he goes to Girls Just Want to Have Fun in 1985, Back to School in 1986.
What?
Beetlejuice in 1988.
Okay.
Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, 88 as well. National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, 1989.
Wow, okay.
Dennis the Menace, 1993. Jumanji, 1995. George of the Jungle, 97, Rat Race, 2001, Anchorman, 2004, The Benchwarmers, 2006, Balls of Fury, 2007, and there's even more after that, but that's where I stopped listing.
Wow.
Dude has a very stacked resume.
Well, I mean, as I pointed out when we were early in our movie friendship,
yes,
cinematographers get around.
That they do.
I mean, well, everybody's got to work, and every movie needs a cinematographer.
Yeah.
If you don't have a camera pointed, then there's no movie.
Nothing you can do.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Watch out, guys. It's a hot take.
Yeah, that's my hot take for the episode. With no camera, you got no movie.
No camera, no movie. So would you like to hear the synopsis of this, Enrique?
No one would.
Oh, well, too bad.
No, lay it on me, Double D, but first.
Oh, yes. So this is off the back.
This is like Friday the 13th 3D.
Oh, God, it almost is.
Sorry. Okay, hold on. I just threw it across the studio because it is so.
Yeah,
how
it's
hard
tempting.
is it? It's so tempting.
I mean, I want to do it now. All right, now I'm good.
I have a different one, but it doesn't punch you when it goes out. It doesn't make me feel like I'm some kind of a lizard creature.
This is true.
But no, so what is the synopsis of New Year's Evil?
So New Year's Evil synopsis on the back of the Kino Lorber Blu-ray says, on a totally punked out New Year's Eve, vivacious TV hostess Diane Blaze Sullivan counts down the hours to midnight. But as her show progresses, every hour on the hour, a savage maniac slashes up a new female victim. As the trail of mutilated bodies spread throughout the city, it becomes apparent that the psychopath's ultimate target is Blaze herself. Desperate to stop the bloody rampage, the police frantically seal off the ongoing televised festivities, but the killer is quicker than they suspected. He's also the last one anyone suspects. So join this holiday season's deadliest celebration with a New Year's resolution to stay alive.
How 70s? We can't say. We'll get sued.
Yeah. My synopsis.
Oh, so this is your personal synopsis?
My personal synopsis,
okay.
Yes. It's New Year's Eve, and Hollywood Hotline host Blaze is terrorized when a caller who only identifies as evil calls into the show as at midnight strikes in multiple time zones to share the recording of his recent kill, unaware he's moving close to her with each kill.
But unaware because just no thought is in this person's brain.
This is true.
Now, this movie's a lot of fun. Not the smartest film.
No, it's not.
Yeah, this is not a Mensa candidate film.
So what was your first time seeing this?
Oh, gosh. It would have been... I know that I saw it on a VHS rip.
Oh, wow.
It was before the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Because I'm obsessed with, like seasonal entertainment. I love the Christmas horror movies.
We did watch Memorial Day one year, so I do know that.
I don't want to talk about it. But no, we watched... I love to watch holiday stuff, not just horror, but there's definitely a certain joy to watching a horror movie about Christmas or a horror movie about New Year's. Hell, a horror movie about Easter if you can find one.
You can find one.
And there's something fun about that. And so I found New Year's Evil because it is the most obvious New Year's horror movie. I mean, you have like Terror Train, which takes place on New Year's.
Yep.
And that's a lot of fun too.
Absolutely.
But this one's literally called New Year's Evil.
And it's not Bloody New Year.
I was afraid that you were going to bring that one up.
Yeah, I have to, because that was very painful for us.
Maybe by British standards, it was a perfect New Year's movie.
We hunted that down even before Vincent had put out the Blu-ray.
I found a VHS copy, a VHS rip.
I'm so excited for that, and that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, that's not what this show's about. We're talking about New Year's Evil,
New
kids.
Year's Evil.
Hey! But, Jesus, it's so annoying. But why did I buy these? The best part was when we walked into the studio.
Yeah.
Dave was like, remember, you can't wear your Santa hat in here. It's just New Year's. And then I was like, Dave, come on. And then you sit down and you didn't even see him. Like there were all these party favors on the table in front of him.
Yes.
So I went, Dave, look, and you were like, oh. So, but sorry.
No, you're good.
But so I remembered watching this heinous looking VHS copy of it. And really all that stuck out to me in that first viewing was that it was sleazy, extra grimy. And to be frank, the beautiful new 4K transfer doesn't look less grimy.
No, it does not.
It is just as grimy in many ways.
Yeah.
Although you can actually see what's happening
this is true.
in the film, which is a bonus.
Yeah.
Some films benefit from that, some don't.
Some don't. That is very true as well.
I mean, even To All Good Night,
yeah,
it benefits heavily from being able to actually see what's happening in it.
Oh yeah,
and that's not a masterpiece.
No,
but it is a fun time.
Yeah.
So, so I remember watching it and thinking like, wow, here's another wackadoo movie. I did notice a certain logo at the beginning.
Yes, you did.
A Canon Films logo.
Yes, you did.
Which, for those that aren't aware,
uninitiated,
I'm shocked. But Canon Films, later in their lifespan, I think it was the beginning of the 70s.
Yeah.
Golan and Globus bought Canon Films. And Menachem, I forget which one's which. There's Menachem and the other guy.
Yeah.
I'm bad with their names. This is Menachem. Where's my money? But they became legendary as a production team.
Yeah.
They were two Israeli filmmakers who decided they wanted to come to Hollywood. And if you listen to the accounts of their time in Hollywood, you hear all these stories about how their public face was, we're here to disrupt Hollywood and blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But in reality, they wanted so badly to be Hollywood insiders.
They wanted to be in so bad.
Golan and Globus, they wanted to go to the parties. They wanted to eat the caviar. They wanted to snort the powders off of young women.
That they did.
They wanted all of the fun. But instead, they made their mark by making Chuck Norris films, Charles Bronson films. They made
He-Man.
All kinds of crazy movies. And the thing that they were best at, bar none, was making movies that were so wackadoo that American audiences would just be like, whoa. And then the rest of the world's audiences would snap it up because, especially back then, a movie doing well in foreign territories was really based on how well could it do without anybody understanding the dialogue?
Yeah.
So your action movies, your like really crazy horror movies.
Yes.
That was their bread and butter.
Yeah.
It would do pretty well in America and then they'd sell it to the rest of the world. And the rest of the world loves bonkers stuff. I mean, a lot of famous Italian directors of the 70s and 80s, Bruno Mattei, Joe D'Amato, even Lucio Fulci, they knew that. They knew that if they made a pretty good horror movie or a pretty good action movie, and it was just insane, that it would do well in every market.
And that totally, I mean, that tracks. If listener, if you have not seen Electric Boogaloo, The Untold Story of Canon Films, or even The Go-Go Boys, cannot recommend those two documentaries enough just to learn about the insanity that was Canon Films.
And yes, you heard that right. It's called Electric Boogaloo because they were the men behind Breakin' 2, Electric Boogaloo. Well, they were behind Breakin' 1 as well.
And Breakin' 1, yeah.
But and that's become... The Electric Boogaloo has become a punchline. Anybody, well, they'll be like, oh yeah, Schindler's List 2, Electric Boogaloo. Oh, the joke is that you make any movie a part 2 and then add Electric Boogaloo, which, and to defend that film for a moment.
I like Breakin' and Breakin' 2.
Breakin' and Breakin' 2 are fun films, but the Electric Boogaloo was a dance.
It was, yes.
In the movie.
Yeah.
But it still is like ridiculous gibberish.
Well, two is way more insane than the first one is, and even
because that's when they had all the success and the money coming in.
And they tried to catch lightning twice in the bottle because they like went into Breakin' 2 production the moment the Breakin' 1 was out.
Well, and I'll never forget breakdancing up the wall.
Up the wall, yeah.
Which then that same rig was used in A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes, it was.
To create the illusion that somebody was being dragged up the walls and stuff like that.
Yep.
So lots of pedigrees here already.
Yeah.
But no, so I remember when I saw Canon Films logo at the beginning, my brain at that time in my life when I was probably 24, 23 was, the guys who did, Over the Top.
Yes.
The guys who did Missing in Action,
Invasion
Delta
USA.
Force, Invasion USA, the later Death Wish sequels.
Yes.
And if you're wondering, hey, which Death Wish sequels did they do? Whichever one was insane was them.
They did 2 through 4. Actually, 2 through 5 because Menahem did 5 under
the 21st Century Film Company.
Yep.
Yeah, when they split up.
Yep.
That was his company, who also famously, they did Night of the Living Dead 1990.
That's right.
It was the 21st Century Film Corporation. It's literally, when you put it on, it says 21st Century Film, and then it says Menachem Golan presents. So...
Well, and then you and I recently just watched Nightmare, a.k.a. Nightmares in a Damaged Brain, which is also 21st Century, but that's before he had gotten the company.
Before he got on board and did what he does best. Drive it high and drive it down.
But we digress.
Oh, we sure did.
But no, going back to my first time, like I said, it was like 2014 or 2015. I caught it on Netflix. I was working at my TV station job at the time, and that was a lot of days of editing city stuff and whatnot, so I could just throw stuff on and do video work to it. And I remember putting this on, and when we get to the climax with the elevator, I immediately remember just pushing my keyboard up a little bit and just turning to my monitor and being like, what is going on?
There's a lot of moments in this movie where, ironically, if you're not paying close attention, then it is completely confusing.
Completely.
And if you are paying close attention, it's still occasionally confusing.
That is very true.
But so that was your first time?
That was my first time, yeah, because I really got into the slashers when my uncle sent me the ones that I had requested from watching the Going to Pieces documentary that Stars had put together and Anchor Bay released. Which had like The Burning and Prom Night and all the other ones. So like, a lot of those side slashers I really didn't get to until probably, I would say probably early 20s is when I mean,
that's so surprising.
Well, and also when it came to the releases at the time, Scream Factory was just starting their hit with those right around the time I moved back to Troy, which was about 2014.
See, you and your Shout Factory. My formative years was all Anchor Bay.
Hey, I watched it on Netflix first. Just saying.
Do what?
I watched it on Netflix first. Just saying.
I mean, that's even more worrisome.
That's even
Let's
more
be
sad.
real.
So let's get into the players of this film, shall we?
Why not?
All right, so our cast, we have Roz Kelly, who was playing Diane Blaze Sullivan. She was in The Owl and the Pussycat in 1970. She was on Happy Days as Pinky Tuscadero, Fonzie's girlfriend, of course. Curse of the Black Widow in 1977. Starsky and Hutch in 77. Kojak 78. The Love Boat 78. Charlie's Angels in 79. American Pop in 81. And our good buddy Larry Cohen's Full Moon High in 1981.
Our good buddy?
Our good buddy is, and we love Larry Cohen on this show.
I mean, but which one was it? Full Moon High?
Full Moon High.
Okay, that's
werewolf
a fun
comedy.
One. Yeah. I would never guess
the
it was a
vampire
werewolf
comedy.
company. Yeah, comedy.
So Kip Niven is Richard Sullivan in this. 93 credits on his resume, by the way. I was you and I were talking about him a little bit as we were watching this. Night Gallery in 1972, Emergency in 73, Magnum Force in 73, Ironside 73, Airport 1975 and 74, Midway 1976, Damnation Alley 77, The Walton 79. Falcon Crest in 1982.
See, now there's our friend,
buddy.
our buddies show Falcon Crest, our pal Jeff Freilich.
Yes.
Of Freddy's Nightmares infamy.
Yes, it is.
And Falcon Crest. All roads lead to Falcon Crest
and Dark Justice.
And Dark Justice. Yeah, that's a fair point.
So All My Children, 1993, Summer of Fear, 96, Walker, Texas Ranger, 2000, and Raising Jeffrey Dahmer in 06. Kip Niven unfortunately left us in 2019, but a hell of a body of work to go off of, and we'll get more into him as we get into the movie. Last name I'm going to put out there is Grant Cramer. He plays Derek Sullivan in this. He was in Hard Bodies in 1984. I should say that 1980's New Year's Evil is his first appearance on film, TV, etc. That is his first debut.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Killer Clowns 1988, Beverly Hills Brats in 1989, Driving Me Crazy 1991, Hail Caesar in 94. I think
Hail Caesar, the Larry Cohen movie?
Yeah.
Nice.
And
I think that's a Larry Cohen, isn't
I think
it?
that sounds Larry Cohen sounds right. Young and the Restless 96, Night of the Living Dead 30th Anniversary Edition in 1999.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
I don't remember him in the 30th Anniversary Edition.
He let me pull up his credit in here in a minute, but Raptor in 2001.
Raptor, the Jim Wynorski
film
with all of the special effects from the prior 3 Carnosaur films.
That is also correct.
But don't let that stop you. Raptor, really fun movie.
Also closing him out, Willy's Wonderland in 2021. He's the cop.
Oh, wow.
I didn't remember him.
Okay.
As,
wow.
Let's see. Night of the Living Dead.
I do not remember him in Night of the Living Dead 30th Anniversary. Wow.
He's listed as Dan on the 30th Anniversary
For
edition.
those who don't know.
Oh, yes, please.
Night
please.
Of the Living Dead 30th Anniversary Edition. Let me tell you something, kids. That was the brainchild of John Russo, the co-writer and producer of the original Night of the Living Dead.
Yep.
And the man wanted to go back and basically make a version of Night of the Living Dead that he could own a copyright to and therefore sell it and make money. He did this with other people who'd worked on Night of the Living Dead, but guess who wasn't involved?
Who's that?
a guy named George Romero. George Romero, the director, the man famous for kind of bringing the modern zombie to America, was not in any way involved.
Jeez.
So John Russo, kind of known for being the guy who will get a quick buck out of the Night of the Living Dead.
That's true.
I'm saying that with all due respect. That's his thing.
Yes.
He's all about a quick buck. So what they did was they took Night of the Living Dead. They did the best scan of the film that they had ever done up to that point.
Yeah.
Best it ever looked. But then they took the film, stripped the soundtrack off, added new music cues that were like original, made just for the film.
Yeah.
And added, I don't know how many minutes of scenes, 20?
Yeah, I think it's like 20 because there's a church scene, some stuff with the cemetery and some other stuff.
They added these scenes, but here's what they added. If you love Night of the Living Dead, they add a scene where two guys are delivering the cemetery zombie played by Bill Heinzman.
Yep.
They have these two guys delivering the body, and they start talking about the history of this body, that he was like a child killer and he was a criminal and a murderer and he had been killed by police or executed or something. Why does that matter? It's a zombie. Yeah. All of the dead people are rising and killing people. Does it make the zombie scarier if they were a rotten dude? So there's that.
Yeah.
And of course they have Bill Heinzman back, but he's 30 years older than he was when he played it.
Also true.
And I knew Bill Heinzman a little bit before he passed away. Bill, super sweet guy, really fun. And if you haven't seen his film Flesh Eater, where he kind of sort of comes back as that zombie again, fun movie.
Very fun.
But yeah, so there are these additional scenes. Then there are these additional scenes with some weird priest character.
Yeah.
And I remember when I rented that from Blockbuster on tape, I remember my friend's mom, we showed her that, and she was like, he looks too modern. That was the first thing. She was like, he looks so modern. He's got like a shaved head and like a small goatee and all this stuff. To quote my old buddy Andy Kopp, it's no good for nobody.
Yeah.
He used to say that all the time about a lot of things.
That tracks.
And the only plus side was the DVD of the 30th anniversary did have just a restoration of the original movie on the disc as well.
That is true.
The 30th anniversary was supposed to be this special thing, and it was setting up what was going to become the next Living Dead film.
That's right.
Children of the Living Dead.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
You should.
That was probably selective memory.
Children of the Living Dead, I can't get into because it would be a whole show.
Yeah.
But it was a sequel completely ill-conceived to Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Again, it focuses on a zombie that was a crazy bad person when they were alive, which as a lifelong Romero Dead fan, that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't.
The acting is really rough because apparently the director got fired during the edit. He wrote this incredible post on IMDb about it. But yes, all the actors sound really like they're not trying because no one was there to direct them while they were dubbing their lines.
Jeez.
It's just a bad time.
So getting away from Night of the Living Dead 30th anniversary.
I'm just surprised this gentleman got pulled into it.
This is true.
Let's celebrate one of the better films he did.
Yes.
New Year's Evil.
So a little history real quick before we get into the film itself. So this was shot in 3 weeks on a budget of $600,000, by the way. It was 18-day shooting schedule and 10-hour days. And this was the debut for the director, Emmett Alston. This was the first feature for the DP, Thomas Ackerman. First big role, leading role for Kip Niven, who plays our killer. And Blaze's first role because she had done TV before this. And then it was also Derek's first role, Grant's first role as well. So a bunch of firsts for this.
A lot of B movies, man. That's where people get their start because, the filmmakers are willing to take a chance on somebody who's either never been on screen at all or has only been relegated to television. It's easy to forget that there was a time when there was a pretty heavy veil between TV and film.
Yeah.
And generally, you could go from TV to film and everybody would cheer. But if you went from film to TV, people would go, oh, his career's dead. Now, film and television are like almost non-existently different in quality and stuff like that. But back then, you would be like, wait, a major actor is on TV? That's why Amazing Stories would blow people's minds because they'd have big movie stars on it.
That makes sense.
But that show was considered elevated.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, so we're getting into the movie now. So we open with a wide shot of L.A., and we just zoom into a Holiday Inn. And inside the Holiday Inn,
literally, it's just a big sign that says Holiday Inn.
Yes.
I got such a laugh out of that.
And inside the Holiday Inn, we meet Blaze, who is getting ready to go on the show Hollywood Hotline. It's her kind of like a TRL almost. It's like a request for videos.
I like how you're like, you think that that's what our audience will understand.
I don't know.
TRL.
Total Request Live.
TRL was Total Request Live. It was hosted by Carson Daly. Oh, my tooth fell out. No, it was hosted by Carson
Showing
Daly.
my age, and I didn't mean to.
You didn't. I should have paged you to warn you. But it was a show where you would call in and request music videos, and they would play them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what this is a riff on, because it's New Year's, it's live, they've got live bands, live music, and you can call into the hotline.
Yep.
And talk like this. But we'll get to that in just a second.
So we meet Blaze, we meet her agent Ernie, and we meet her assistant Yvonne, and Blaze is getting ready for the show. She sends Yvonne up to the room to check on something, and Yvonne goes into the room, and she gets the call from Blaze, says everything's okay, and she's going to meet her downstairs. Then she starts hearing the shower drip. She inspects the shower, finds nothing, a knock at the door, still nothing.
Huh?
Then she goes back into the bathroom. She goes to shut the shower off again, and a hand pulls her back in, pulls out a switchblade, and that is the start of New Year's Evil.
Yeah, and then we get treated to the New Year's Evil theme song. Yeah, it's got riffs for days, baby.
Shadow, baby, shadow. Oh my god. So then we are meeting down the street with a bunch of crazy punks that are driving down. I'm guessing it's Sunset Boulevard.
It sure looked like it.
Yeah. And this is when I say crazy punks, like we've got like 7 or 8 in a car. They're all like just, happy-go-lucky, just chanting.
Oh,
and
yeah,
drinking.
They're having just a damn good time.
Having a great time. So then we have one particular set of them that pull up to the Holiday Inn, and a cop's like, tickets, please. And one guy is like, yeah, we got our tickets. He pulls out a switchblade, but it's actually not. It's a switch comb.
It's a comb that looks like a switchblade. Very popular when I was in school.
With no sound effect, mind you.
Yeah, it pops open and there's no sound. One of my favorite things about older movies, cheap movies, is that they'll just skip a sound effect because sound mixing was really not just expensive, but difficult back then.
Yeah.
You didn't have like 300 tracks of audio where you could just... So sometimes they would just be like, doesn't need to do anything. Now, what blows my mind is, as a filmmaker, if I were working on that movie, I would not skip a sound effect in the first 3 minutes of the movie.
That is very true.
Because I'd be worried that would make people think the film is lazy. But then again, I mean, you're sitting down to watch New Year's Evil.
Yeah.
You know what? Shut up and eat your gruel.
So back at the hotel, we see Blaze getting ready. She's talking to her agent Ernie, and that's when we meet Derek, her son. He wants to basically tell Blaze about this party got and that he's super excited to share it with her, but she's just too busy for the show.
She is so obscenely busy.
Yeah.
That she's really not busy. She's just straight up neglectful.
She really is.
Like there's a scene a little later on where she calls him and he answers the phone. He's like, yeah. And she's like, are you okay? And he's like, no, I'm fine. And she says something else. And then he's like, there's something I really need to tell you. And then she's like, I gotta go. Like, a second ago, you were curious if something was wrong. And then he says, like, I really need to tell you something. She's like, bye.
Bye. Okay, bye.
Mother of the year.
So Derek,
and he's grown ass too.
Oh, yeah. Derek also asks about his father, Richard, and Blaze tells him, because Yvonne spoke about this previously, that she had called Palm Springs and it sounded like Richard had tied one on a little early. So Richard is out of the picture and drunk, from what we know.
On New Year's.
Crazy.
Who gets drunk on New Year's?
Never had to drink alcohol in my life.
Never even heard of such a thing. Everybody can laugh because Dave over here is Drinky the Clown. I've actually never drank alcohol.
This is true.
So he's trying to take the wind out of my sails by being like, I've never had a sip of alcohol in my life. Meanwhile, it's like, let's tell one story from your... No, I'm just...
No, we're not.
I mean, see, just his reaction to me saying, let's talk about college, stops him dead in his tracks.
Let's not. Let's get back to New Year's Evil.
Yeah, you're right.
Maybe we'll save that story for another movie that reconciles it.
I mean, there are plenty to go around, Dobby.
God, Jesus. So back in the studio, Hollywood Hotline is starting, and this is the countdown to this year's most popular new wave rock, and we are finding out that they have 3 time zones that they're going to be checking in on. We're going to be checking in with New York, Chicago, and Aspen, Colorado at the top of each hour as it goes to New Year's.
AKA Eastern Central Mountain Time.
There we go.
I mean, shocker. Dave, when you were a kid, did you sit up late and watch the ring-ins?
Actually, my parents were really, really cool in regards to New Year's drops. We used to go to my grandparents' house. This was actually a long time ago. We used to go to my grandparents' house.
Okay.
And we would, it would be me, my family, my grandparents, and other scattered family in a house that had probably 20 people in it.
When you say scattered family, I imagine you show up and there's just people laying on the lawn all over. We tied one off.
But no, I have memories of New Year's. I remember 99 vaguely.
Only drinking a little bit because you were 7.
Yeah, 'cause I'm 7. But no, yeah, I've always been a big New Year's fan. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun celebrations with friends and family through the years. So yeah, I usually am. I don't think there's ever been a time that I've missed it since that I can remember.
As a non-drinker,
Yeah.
New Year's is not the most fun holiday.
Yeah, I can see that.
Especially when the people who do want you to come out want you to drive them around.
That would be
And meanwhile, I'm like, look, I want you to drive home drunk.
Oh my god.
That is what I want for Christmas. And you didn't get me anything. I'm don't drive. You know what? You're an adult. Do what you want.
Oh,
but,
there we go.
But as a lifestyle guide for Do You Even Movie? No. But in all seriousness, so when I was growing up, we were of course allowed to stay up late for New Year's. And I'm talking being 5, 7, 8, 9 years old. We would sit up and we would eat a meat and cheese tray that I thought was a tradition of New Year's. And then I found out the reason we always ate a meat and cheese tray was because my mother's clients at work gave her one every year.
Okay.
So then she would just shift it to the kids and be like, "There you go," to me and my sister if she was around. But I remember we didn't have noisemakers and stuff because they cost money.
Yeah.
So my mom would go and get the pots and pans
So you can
and lay them out so you could bang them together at
I
midnight.
love your mom.
And apparently that's what she did when she was a little girl.
Okay.
Because you would bang the pots and pans.
Yeah.
And I was a nightmare though, because at 7, 8, 9 years old, I mean, I'm still a nightmare, really, let's be real. But at 7 or 8, 9 years old, I would do the thing where I would be like, but now we got to ring it in the new year for the central time zone.
Oh, you're
so
that
I
kid.
would be ringing in at 1 a.m. too, but by 2 I'd probably be out cold, just wasted on sparkling cider, which honestly, that's how I know how close I'm getting to death.
Yeah.
Is by how much sparkling cider I can consume.
How many years ago was it where you literally drank the whole 2 bottles and you thought you were going to die? It's been at least 3 or 4 years ago, I want to say.
It's got to be more than that. It used to be that I would drink a whole bottle just on my own. Now I'm lucky to finish 1 glass. It's too sweet. I'm almost 40. It's too sweet. But I just wanted to set the stage a little bit about New Year's.
And that got me wondering too, because I saw a post a couple years ago where it was clearly a guy it was his kids celebrate in the back and New Year's is on the TV, but then he shows that it's a YouTube clip from
oh yeah,
I'm wondering how many parents had it recorded and everything.
So Netflix did that.
No shit.
They had a kids New Year's celebration where you could just press play anytime. That way they could ring in the New Year but still go to bed at 10 or o'clock at night, or even better,
cute.
3 p.m.
Yes.
Happy New Year's, time to go to bed. It's still bright outside. We're in Alaska. Shut up. It's no, we're not. We're in Vermont. Who taught you that?
Oh my God.
But
so back on Hollywood Hotline.
My point is, I sure love a good sparkling cider.
Yes, you do.
To sip delicately while I eat olives and think about how angry I am about the last year.
Do you have a New Year's movie at all?
You mean that I always watch?
Yeah.
No. I've watched New Year's Evil at least 3 New Years in a row. For a couple of, you're gonna love this. For a couple of years, Freddy's Dead was my New Year's movie.
I'm loving that.
I was dating a woman who that was her favorite Freddy movie.
Yep, that tracks.
And the first year we were dating, we weren't planning on spending New Year's together because we had just started dating.
Yeah.
We weren't serious at all. But sure enough, at 11, I was like, I'm just sitting at home. What are you doing? She's like, my mom went to bed. I mean, we're in our 20s, early 20s. She's like, my mom went to bed. So I'm just sitting here watching TV. And I was like, do you want to hang out? And she's like, yeah. It was that stage in dating where you're worried that you're asking for too much time.
Yeah.
So you're kind of feeling out, but then eventually it's like, no, please come on over. So I remember I came over and we watched we watched Night of the Comet.
Ooh, good pick.
Because it was on television.
Yeah, and New Year's themed, yeah.
And then we watched Freddy's Dead just because she wanted to.
Yeah.
And then we started doing that for a couple of New Year's in a row.
I love that.
But I don't have like a specific one. Like last New Year's, 2 New Year's in a row, I was watching Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Because that dropped like right before New Year's.
Right before New Year's.
That was awesome.
That was.
And then one year I watched Vault of Horror.
Okay. I love Vault of Horror.
Because I had watched the Tales from the Crypt movie for Christmas.
I just watched that a couple nights ago, actually.
So
my New Year's movie, it started about 4 or 5 years ago, is Casablanca. I watch Casablanca every January 1st now.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I like that you pronounced it 2 different ways because you doubt yourself.
Casablanca.
I was waiting for you to be like, Serbian film man.
No.
Get that New Year's baby in here.
No.
Whoop, whoop.
Oh,
whoop,
that's terrible.
Whoop.
So back on Hollywood Hotline, like I said, the countdown of this year's most popular new wave rock. So to give you perspective of how this show is run, it is you have a stage that has about like 4 or 5 people on it that have phones in front of them. Blaze has a wireless microphone that she walks around the entire studio with, and then in the pit is all the punks that are attending the show.
In the pit!
Slam dancing into each other, and then you have a live band on one other side of the stage, too. And that is when we get the first call, which somebody recommends a song, and then we meet our killer, who is Evil. He is introduced with no mask.
His name is Evil.
He wants to be called Evil.
And he is also quite evil.
Quite evil. And he makes his introduction by talking like this.
Yes.
Were you doing some slossing over there?
Say hi to my friend.
Tour strap, baby.
But no, and the way they depict him making the voice, is it looks like he has like a party favor in his mouth. It looks like a kazoo almost.
Almost, yeah, it does. And Kip Niven, who plays our killer, spoilers, who is Evil, he says in the bonus material on the disc that originally they did give him something to change the voice, but it wasn't working. So he went to Emmett and he was like, "Can I just talk like this?" And Emmett was like, "Yeah, do that." So that is Kip Niven's voice the entire film.
Well, I'm guessing that he meant not when they were filming, but probably when they were dubbing.
When they were dubbing,
that they were like, "We give you a thing to," because I had a voice changer when I was a teenager that I bought because I saw it in Scream. Spoiler alert: they didn't use a voice changer in Scream. They hired a different actor to do the
Jackson,
voice.
Baby.
Wow, look at you. But I bought that, and you could make your voice deep or you could make your voice high. And I would answer the phone just with that voice.
Of course you would.
And people would be like, can I talk to, I'm not gonna say my mom's name on the show.
Yeah, fair.
But
so Evil tells Blaze that he is going to kill somebody at midnight, and he's going to call back and let her know that it went through. So Blaze thinks this is a joke, and, Evil hangs up, and she goes back into it, introduces Shadow, who plays New Year's Evil song.
Oh, of course. Come on. It's New Year's.
New Year's
Evil.
And Blaze runs over to Ernie, and he tells her not to worry. It's probably just some wacko just having his kicks and nothing to be concerned about.
Yeah, don't even stress about that, babe.
So then we watch the man who is evil arrive at a place that is listed as the Crawford Sanitarium on the sign that he runs past.
Not to be confused with the Crawford Sanatorium on the other side of town.
The other side of town.
People make that mistake all the time.
So he runs into the building, and he sneaks into the back, and that is where we see that he is posing as an orderly, and he meets Nurse Jane, who is Taffy. What is her last name?
I don't know. You have the notes.
I know. Hang on. Just got to find this.
This guy writes everything down and then doesn't.
Taffy O'Connell. And
he did it.
She is, she's one of the nurses there, and Richard goes to ask her for help, and she's like, oh, are you new? He tells her he's new, and that he's got some champagne, and that if they would like to, they can sneak off and celebrate the new year a little early.
Champagne.
So while this happens, Ernie introduces back at Hollywood Hotline the extra police that he's bringing in for Blaze to comfort her. She calls Derek, trying to get him on the show, and this is the scene that Henrique was talking about. So Derek at this point is up in his room, and he's secluded himself. We see a glass, and we see like 6 pills next to it. He answers the phone, and he's like, I'm not doing okay, and she's like, okay, well, just wanted to see if you wanted to come down. He's like, actually, if something I want to talk to you, and that's when she's like, gotta go, bye.
Adios, boy.
So then he hangs up the phone, takes one of the pills, and then that is when we cut back to our nurse and Richard in the sanitarium. They're going at it hot and heavy, and we see Richard push record on his boombox as they do the countdown, and we go to 7, 6, 5, 4. He takes out a switchblade, sticks it up, and proceeds to kill Jane as everybody's celebrating New Year's over the air.
Yay!
And that's one thing I do want to say about this movie, that even though, yeah, it is, that campy slasher, that the kills in this are pretty fucking brutal.
They're super brutal. Yeah. And like I said, the film has a seediness that I will call charming.
Yeah.
I would be willing to say it's a charming seediness. I mean, there's a reason we're talking about it on the show.
Yeah.
It's because we like it.
Yep.
So there's a lot to like about this kind of nasty little movie.
No, it absolutely. And so midnight hits in New York, and Made in Japan, the next band, plays as we watch punks leap off the stage into the audience, off to the side. Like, the punks in this movie are freaking
They're having a great time.
They truly, truly are.
I wonder if drugs were involved.
I wonder as well. So they keep slam dancing, and then we see that Evil calls back in, and he plays the first kill over the air, tells them where they can find the body, that it's somewhere in the Crawford Sanitarium.
Yeah, he carries like a boombox around that he uses to record the audio of the kills.
How?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You know more about boomboxes than me.
Okay, yeah, I own several boomboxes, and the one that he has does look somewhat like mine, and there's no way to record anything outside of it that's not over airwaves or being over Bluetooth.
You don't know that he doesn't. I mean, actually, when I was a kid, I did have a boombox that had a microphone in it.
I mean, I did too, but like, he doesn't use a microphone at all, so...
No, I mean, it had a microphone built into it.
Oh, built into it, I got you. So, back in...
Dave trying to pluck holes in a perfect film.
Back at the Crawford Sanitarium, we see a nurse calling to Jane. She wanders around, follows a trail of blood, finds a shoe sticking out of a closet, opens the closet, and there's Jane's body, which, again, pretty gruesome.
Oh, no, this movie's very nasty.
Yeah. So back in the hotel room, we see Derek is just having a great time, kind of losing it. He has a pair of his mom's stockings, and he decides to cut them, puts them over his head.
And I want to say, this scene is drawn out. He's mutilating these stockings and like chewing on them, running them through his teeth. Puts on her earrings, and then he eventually finally pulls it over his head and starts mushing his face around and stuff. Basically looks like Mickey Rourke now.
He does. You actually made that joke while we were watching.
Because it's true. It's not even a joke. It was an observation.
And something interesting in regards to that scene, Grant, who plays Derek, talks about it on the bonus features, that was his idea. That at the audition, he brought the stockings and the switchblade, and that's what he did at the audition that impressed everybody, because apparently the casting director, when he asked me, he's like, how was that? And he's like, commit him. And he's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, you got the job. Tell everybody else to go home.
Do you think it was because they were afraid to turn him down? They were like, oh, you brought those from home, huh? Well,
you got the job.
You got the job, pal.
Do we have security?
No, Menachem sent them all home when they unionized.
Oh, God. So we see him put the stocking over his head. He's just having a great old time. And then that is when we cut back to evil Richard, who we see putting on a fake mustache. And
quite the mustache.
He is going into, as disguised, into a club, a really, nice club on Sunset Strip where everybody's having a good time, smoking, dancing. There's clearly not drugs involved anywhere.
No chance. No way.
No chance at all. He goes up.
I love the people dancing in this club, by the way, because now we're not dealing with punks. We're dealing with like mid-20s to mid 40s people, and they're just like rocking back and forth. And it's not just that they're like boring people, it's that they're people dancing in a movie. And I would bet $8 that there was no music being played for them to dance to, because they were like, can we get some music? And they're like, no. They just look at their watch. They're like, no,
no, you can't. So by this point, Ernie tells Blaze that that evil is real because they've discovered the body at Crawford Sanitarium. Meanwhile, back in the club, we find that Richard is going up to a nice blonde, and he's posing as this agent for Eric Estrada. He's asking her what time it is.
He's a businessman.
Oh, yes, my apologies.
No, because there's that whole thing.
Agent.
She's like, oh, are you an agent? And he's like, actually, I'm a business manager. I do investments and da-da-da and da-da-da.
And then he's going to Eric Estrada's house, and,
what a name to drop in 1980.
Yes.
I'm hanging out with Eric. You know what? I love that, though, because it's believable.
Yeah.
Like, I believe you could run into somebody who was going to that party.
That's true.
But like, if it was like, I'm going to Gene Hackman's, you'd be like,
are you?
No, you'd be like, I don't want to go to Gene Hackman's party.
I don't want to go to Gene Hackman's house. So he persuades her to go with him. Meanwhile, back at Hollywood Hotline, Made in Japan plays Dumb Blondes, and we go see that Blaze is kind of having some issues with this, trying to figure out what she's going to do, but Ernie assures her that they got the cops in the building, nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, Richard is escorting the woman out of the bar, and she brings her friend because, you know, she can't go out with some crazy
in
guy.
Numbers. Yeah, you're a stranger, and he's like,
annoyed.
Oh. Well, no, he's like, oh, of course, you can't be too careful.
They walk past him, and he's just like, so he's like, my Mercedes is right over here. So he takes him to the Mercedes. Meanwhile, back at Hollywood Hotline, the lieutenant is playing the recording for Blaze and asking her if he finds anything distinguishing about the voice. Is there anything she recognizes, any patterns? Nothing that she can see, which again, we'll get to later as to why that's very ironic.
Oh, yeah. Well, ironic like the song Ironic, which is not ironic.
Not ironic at all. So Chicago time zone is approaching in the car, and the two women are kind of annoying Richard. The one's talking about transcendental meditation and talking about how it cleared her of her smoking and her friend's bad diarrhea. It cleared her friend's nervous diarrhea. Excuse me.
And then she's like, come on, what are you talking about that for?
And he's getting nervous because the time is approaching. He's got to make his kill by 10 o'clock. He realizes that he's not going to make it to the destination, so he pulls off to the side because the friend has to go to the bathroom, and he's like, go inside, use the bathroom, here's a $100 bill, and go buy the biggest damn bottle of champagne that you can find. So she wanders off.
Oh, yeah.
And meanwhile, the other friend sitting next to him, he's like, hey, do you want to smoke a joint? And he pulls up this huge bag of weed that does have weed at the bottom. I did notice that on this viewing, that there are the leaves like right in the bottom there that almost go into her mouth, because he puts the bag over her head and proceeds to suffocate her.
Ah, marijuana. Not even once.
Also happening at midnight, so he does record it at the right time.
Oh. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year indeed. So the friend comes back and she sees that her friend's shoe is outside the car, so she starts following a little trail of garments, and she finds her way to this dumpster where she pops the lid up, and in one of the creepiest shots of the whole movie, Richard lights the lighter with this grin on his face and the fake mustache and pulls her in and then kills her.
Yes. Really cool sequence.
Really cool sequence. So Richard pulls her in. She's dead now. So he calls the show.
She's dead now.
She's dead now.
Don't worry about her.
So he calls the show, plays it once again, says where to find the bodies again, and now the cops, we see them trailing it. They find one of the shoes, I think, again, in a handbag, and Richard has put the body, the chick that he suffocated, on a swing set, so her body's posing on a swing set. Then they go up to this slide where they find the one chick's handbag, and then she comes down the slide dead. And so that's how he presents the bodies, which I really did find funny this viewing. I don't know why.
I mean, it's bizarre.
It's very, especially the way that it slides down the slide.
Yeah, your immediate response was like, how? And I was like, gravity, David. Gravity.
So the cops find the bodies of the women, and now Richard we see dressed as a priest. So he's putting on his priest garb as a cop car drives past us too.
His finest priest garb.
Finest priest garb. So he gets to do his car, and he's kind of nervous. He's trying to make sure that he gets his kills timed out right again. And meanwhile, he pulls up next to a bunch of bikers that don't take kindly to a priest behind the wheel.
Yeah, they're so unprovoked. And the guy just, I forget, what does he say? Do you remember what he says?
Something along, hey, Padre,
I think he said something like, we're passing, or something. And then he just gives him the bird.
Giant finger, yes.
Like right in his face, his window's down. Like if Dave was the guy, the priest, like that, that close. Like almost touch.
Yeah.
I know. Dave's like, we discussed in the contract with the show you couldn't touch me.
So he's trying to figure out his next victim. So he's not paying attention to the road. So he goes driving off and doesn't realize that he rear ends the bikers, who are immediately pissed off.
Imagine.
So they start climbing onto his car, breaking the windows. So he drives past them as best he can, trying to flee from them. He takes Recluse in a drive-in.
He does.
And this drive-in is playing a trailer for Blood Feast and The Red Queen Kills 7 that plays for the entire duration that we're in this drive-in.
Yeah, you hear the audio of it the whole way through.
The whole way
occasionally
through.
See the screen.
Yeah, the whole way through. So then he's trying to hide in the drive-in, and he realizes that the bikers come through, which is hilarious because he pays his way into the drive-in, drives in, everything's fine, and then we see the ticket attendant trying to stop the bikers as they're just riding past her. No care in the world. And then once again, New Year's is approaching, so he's got to figure out what he's going to do now. The bikers have swarmed the drive-in, and he decided that he's going to make a run for it because they know his car. So he gets out of his car and starts trying to find somewhere to go. Meanwhile, they find his car, start beating the shit out of it, and one of the bikers confronts him, and he's like, "Hey, Padre," and he's like, "I'm a man of God, I'll never fight you." Sticks him to death, like right in the heart.
Yit. Now, I want to say, how cool would it be to spend New Year's at a drive-in?
I would love that.
I mean, unfortunately, living in the Midwest as we do,
It's a bit cold.
it's a bit chilly. Yeah, most drive-ins around here are closed by the end of October.
Yeah.
And we do have quite a few drive-ins.
Yeah.
Some of them, like out east, a couple of the specialty ones will be open till like the end of November.
Oh, wow.
But it's cold.
Yeah.
And yeah.
When we had COVID hit, wasn't Dixie open a couple extra weeks or two?
They opened early.
They opened early. That's what it was.
They started the season early.
That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
I was curious. Yeah. So now he has stabbed this biker. He finds a car with a couple making out in it. He gets into the car, pulls the guy out, asks where the keys are, and the guy's like, "They're in the ignition." So he gets in the car. He's now kidnapped a young woman who's freaking out. She's like, "Take my money. I don't have much. You can have this ring, and we can even fool around if you want. I won't do anything."
What does she say?
I won't scream or fight or anything.
No, but she says like we could even make it or something.
We could even mess around. Or...
No, it wasn't mess around. It wasn't a song from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. No, she said like we could even do it or something.
Yeah.
She says like a really 80s term for it. Now I'm not remembering it.
But I think it is like we could even do it. I think that sounds about right. So he, meanwhile, as he's driving, he just has the switchblade up, just taunting her with it. So they end up pulling off to the side because there's these two drunk guys that pop out in front of his car. They're celebrating New Year's.
They are living their best lives.
Have tied one off.
They are just like wandering around. They've got like the party hats
yep.
and they're all just like, and they're just, and there's a whole road.
Yeah.
And they're only in front of this car.
Only in front of his car. So he stops, and she takes this as her chance to escape. So she gets out, and then we get to this really suspenseful little pursuit in the woods. So she's running through this little park area. She comes to these bleachers that she's hiding under, and meanwhile, Richard is like tailing her, kind of tapping on the bleachers with his switchblade, and also does a really nice gleam of catching the light to show the knife at one point too.
I don't. You're so impressed. All you have to do is twist it till it catches the light.
I just like that.
No, it looks great.
It looks cool.
Yeah, it looks really.
So
cool.
anyway, she takes refuge under, I think it was like a concession stand or something, where she's hiding, and the cops have been stopped by the drunk guys as well, and they see that something's up, so they get to the park and they're like, "Hey, stop, police!" So Richard takes off, doesn't get his kill, and now he's not going to make his kill for that New Year's time. I know.
Very, very dishonorable.
So, back at Hollywood Hotline, New Year's hits in Colorado. Richard misses his deadline, and now the police have locked down the Holiday Inn, which is a hilarious scene because the lieutenant goes on to stage during a commercial break.
Yeah, he goes, "I'm a lieutenant whatever with the LAPD," and then
basically.
The whole punk crowd just starts booing him.
Calling him names,
yeah,
telling him to
pig,
shut up.
We don't want to hear from you, pig. It's so funny.
He tells them they can't leave the show, so like they are basically locked in at this point until the show's over or until they find evil.
Well, no, you're allowed out, but you're not allowed back in.
Yeah,
we will not allow re-entry.
Yeah, and also they won't allow anybody into the Holiday Inn at this point outside of the hotel. It's completely locked down. So if you're already inside, you can still get inside, but you can't.
No, you're already inside.
Yeah.
Nobody else will be allowed entry.
Yeah. So then the lieutenant introduces Dr. Reed, who is the psychologist of Blaze, stating that they believe that he'll be back here at midnight because this seems to fit his MO so far.
I love in movies police psychiatrists because, pardon the expression, they're about as useful as a cock ring at Lilith Fair.
This tracks.
They are. They'll just be like, "He's clearly going to try to harm you."
Well,
no, he's literally calling you to tell you he's murdering people.
Let's not forget
he's threatening you.
The best one in Die Hard with the hostage terrorist hostage.
Yeah. Probably experiencing a kind of Stockholm syndrome. Yeah, no, it's like
meanwhile Ellis is being carried out dead.
Yeah. At this point, they'll start to feel their captors are their protectors. Oh, God.
So now Richard arrives at the hotel. He finds that it's locked down and that he cannot get in. And so he decides that he's going to sneak around back through the parking garage. And he does so. He gets into the garage and he sees 2 cops guarding the lobby entrance. So he calls one of the cops or one of the guards over and he's like, I found a drunk over here. So he can't see him. He just hears his voice. The cop comes around. He hits him with a brick. And what I failed to mention.
Now the killer hits the cop with a brick.
The killer hits the cop with the brick. And what I failed to mention.
This cop isn't from East LA.
Yeah.
Anyway.
this cop's also a little bigger than Richard.
He's a bit of a tubby boy.
He's got some pounds on him more so than Richard, but somehow the uniform fits him just right.
Black is very slimming.
Black
David.
is very slimming. This is true. So, knocks out the cop, takes his uniform. Meanwhile, back inside, Hollywood Hotline resumes. Made in Japan starts playing a song called Banzai, and everybody slam dances, but zombie-like back and forth because at this point, everybody's worn out at the freaking show.
Well, it's like they've been dancing for hours on hours on live TV. You got to keep the cocaine flowing if you want people to dance that long, right?
This is true. Yeah. So Richard sneaks inside, stripping into his regular clothes, and Blaze is now escorted by a guard back to her room. And we see that Richard is also messing around with a box, but we'll get to that here in a second, like an electric box. So she goes into the room, but the guard goes in first. He searches it, finds Derek, who he pulls a gun on, and Blaze has to run in and be like, no, that's my son. Don't shoot my son.
Or maybe do.
Or do, at this point.
I mean, for all she cares, my God.
Yeah,
I mean, again, mother of the goddamn year.
And appropriately, Derek is pretty upset to see her. He tells her once again that he had news for her, but right now, or he has a surprise for her, but right now he just doesn't care, and he storms off. She tries to chase after him, but she sits down to her vanity while the guard sits outside, and she's just really distraught at this point. Meanwhile, behind her, Richard has snuck into the room. He's been in the bathroom this entire time.
Uh-oh.
He has a creepy mask on that he started the movie out with. Or wait, did he? I can't remember now. No, I think the mask is new. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So the mask, he puts this really creepy mask on and he's sneaking up behind her. And that's when we reveal that evil is Richard, who is Blaze's husband.
And Richard is evil.
So he tells her that he wanted it to be a surprise, but not a very good one at this point, and that he rushed over when he heard all the news about the killer, except he has no idea that it's actually real and the bodies have piled up.
Great twist, great reveal, because when he pulls the mask off, you're expecting like this to be the big killer confrontation moment. Yeah. And instead she just goes, oh, okay, it's you. And you're like, wait, what? And then you find out it's her husband all along. Great twist. Far too good of a twist.
For this movie.
For New Year's Evil.
Yeah. So he tells the guard outside that he's in the room, and the guard's like, well, how'd you get in there? And he's like, well, her agent Ernie let me up. And so he goes to radio Ernie. We next see Richard is messing with an elevator box, looking at a monitor that he is hooked up to that is the camera inside the elevator. And the lieutenant, we cut back to him downstairs as Ernie tells him that Richard's car is the one that they found at the drive-in and also with the stabbing victim, and that Richard is in the hotel because he got the clearance. And that's when Ernie's like, I did not give him any clearance. And now we get to the exciting portion because
finally
back they also reveal, by the way, that Richard was in the sanitarium that he visited. That's how he knew
they figured out that he had been in there at some point.
So Blaze enters the elevator with the guard. He gets ambushed by Richard because he is futzing with the elevator. He drops it down, he freezes it, and then makes it go up, opens the door, goes in and knocks the guard out because at this point he's shaking the elevator. They fall into the ground. And that's when he drops down next to Blaze, who's panicked at this point, and he tells her that he's evil by playing the recording, and she's like, why did you do it? And that's when Richard delivers this dialogue that basically goes into him stating that he feels castrated by Blaze and Yvonne because he's had to ask for his allowance from them, and also that she's doing the same thing to his son and he won't allow it.
So it's all jealousy because she's super duper famous, apparently. Even though we barely see her do anything requiring any talent. So.
Except for hating on Derek, apparently.
I mean, that's pretty good.
He also does state that she's selfish and she's immoral and that her and Yvonne were one and the same. They shortchanged him and basically castrated him. I love that he uses that phrasing, too. So he states that tomorrow starts his new life because they're going to let her sleep in. And he plans to take his son to the Rose Bowl, and that we see the guards wandering the hotel. They're looking for him. They're not finding anything. Meanwhile, Richard then chains Blaze to the bottom of the elevator. Yes, he chains her to the bottom of the elevator, which, again, he's taking control of and tells her to enjoy her going-away party and get smashed.
I love that. And get smashed is the best part, because for those who don't know, that could mean getting a little tips it.
So he sends her up the shaft to the top, revealing Yvonne's body that he stashed at the top. So now Blaze sees that Yvonne is officially dead. In the elevator, this really partied out couple enters. They're just leaning against the wall and like have streamers like decked out all over them. And he starts dropping the elevator down super fast. And it's hilarious because the couple inside the male is like, the fuck is going on here?
It's just like, what the hell?
So the party couple starts screaming. They start messing with the buttons. Meanwhile, back upstairs, the cops find Richard. They ambush him at the elevator box, and then they start having a firefight back and forth, trading bullets. It hits the elevator box. It starts dropping the elevator again. Then they start shooting the shit out of it, and it completely stops the elevator. So Blaze is saved for the time being. We now see Richard go running up to the top of the roof, and he gets to the top, and like you can kind of see that he doesn't know what he's going to do. Like he's cornered.
He's pretty much not planned for this to go so poorly.
Yeah, so he decides that he's going to put his mask on again, and he just laughs as one of the cops walks up, pulling a gun on him, telling him to drop the switchblade, drop his knife, and then he stands on the edge, recites some lines from Hamlet, such as, "To die, to sleep, no more," and then he jumps off of the roof to the bottom, killing himself.
Yes, and it is an exquisite dummy.
Exquisite dummy.
It's a very clear dummy that falls down. He hits the ground.
Derek rushes to his body, removing the mask, and starts caressing his father's hair, which of course is covered in blood. And did you see at this point too that like Richard's arm is like behind him? I never noticed that.
Yeah, he's completely foobarred.
He's completely foobarred. So Derek gets pulled away by a cop. He takes the mask with him, and he gets a look that you just kind of like, okay, something's not right about this. Meanwhile, they've gotten Blaze free from the elevator. They're escorting her out on a stretcher to the ambulance, and we see her get put into the ambulance, and one of the meds tells him, okay, we're ready to go. The camera pans into the driver's seat where we see Derek sporting the mask, and then we cut over to the side where he has killed the original driver.
Who looked a lot like a young John Carpenter.
I did think that too,
He is not.
It's not.
But it sure did look like it.
And now they're driving away as we hear Happy New Year from Hawaii. The credits roll, and that, my friends, is a very, very New Year's Evil.
Oh boy, yes, that is New Year's Evil.
New Year's Evil,
and
baby.
What a film it is. A really fun experience.
Yeah.
A film that I cannot recommend enough for the WTF factor, the gore factor, the violence factor, the sleaze factor, the 80s nostalgia factor.
80s nostalgia, yeah. The thing I love about New Year's Evil is the setup of it with the rock show and just the overall performance by Kip Niven, who plays Richard, because if it wasn't for him, because that's one of the things I love about this particular slasher is it's not like a lot of other ones, because we get the killer reveal literally the first like 5 minutes in.
Yeah, well, we get a reveal, but we don't know who
who it is. But yeah, we are following the killer around, which I always find interesting because it kind of feels like Henry in that way.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the fact that his identity, we think we know who the killer is, that he's just some psycho guy.
Yeah.
And by seeing his face right away, we assume we don't know who he is.
Yeah.
And that nobody does.
Yeah.
And then when I love the reveal.
The reveal is so good.
It's so great when she just looks up and goes, "Oh, hi.
It's you." Yeah.
It's so good.
And I think too, like the kills, like I mentioned, are super, super heinous. And the movie itself is pretty campy. I mean, especially with the concert and everything. But this is there is not a slow moment in this movie.
No, it books. It totally moves and moves and moves.
So I cannot recommend New Year's Evil enough. This is 100% stream it for me. You can currently get it available on several platforms, so you can find it pretty easily. There is a recent Blu-ray that did come out from Kino, which is what we actually screened tonight.
Yes.
It has a new 2K restoration on it. It has a making of that's about like 30 minutes long that speaks to Kip Niven, Thomas Ackerman, Grant, and Taffy. And there's also a commentary on it with the director Emmett that's led by R.I.P. Banana Man of Code Red.
Rest in peace, Banana Man.
So that is New Year's Evil. I mean, what more can you say about this fantastic film?
No, it's a blast from start to finish. I would also give it a stream it. Yeah. I mean, if you're a massive collector, then owning it is obvious.
Yeah.
But otherwise, this is definitely something you could have for when you and your buddies are hanging out near New Year's.
Yeah.
You know, if you need something to put on that's ridiculous, something that's going to go very well with your nachos.
Yes.
Then I think that is definitely the way to go.
And if you're a New Year's Evil fan, we always like to do a recommendation on this show as well. I'm going to recommend Enrique's suggestion, actually, to go along with the punk atmosphere of this film.
Yeah.
1985 Demons. A group of random people are invited to a screening of a mysterious movie only to find themselves trapped in the theater with ravenous demons. This movie is fucking bonkers and a blast. If you don't know Demons, I mean,
it's a great
God.
film, super fun, and yeah, I think that the vibe with all the ridiculous punks, it kind of picks up in there, so it's a good companion, and it's Italian.
That is Italian,
so it's crazy.
Italian.
It's a 1980s Italian movie, so it is nuts.
So New Year's Evil 1980, like I said, you can find it readily available on streaming platforms. You can get a Blu-ray from Shout or even Kino. Make sure you check it out if you haven't. Perfect movie for this time of year.
Absolutely. So before we wrap this up,
yes, sir.
Dave, what are your New Year's resolutions?
My New Year's resolutions are actually, I do have three that I've actually been thinking of.
I was joking.
I'm not joking.
Too late. Now you have to tell them.
So I want to read more. I have a large collection of books, as you've seen, and I don't know how many years they've been sitting that I was super excited to get them. So I want to read a little bit more.
I would love to see you learn how to read.
You're funny. I want to write a little more on top of that because I feel like I could maybe possibly contribute to another podcast you do, possibly. And I want to get more people on Do You Even Movie because I'm having a blast doing this show with you, and I'm looking super, super forward to it as we go into 2024, what we all have to offer.
Well, I'm glad and upset to be loosely involved in two of your goals.
Yeah.
If I had a New Year's resolution, which I don't, it would be to read more.
Yeah.
Although I read for Weekly Spooky constantly. Yeah. But I'm trying to read a little bit more.
I'm proud of you.
For fun.
You've been reading a lot more of your physical books, more so than they've just been sitting.
My physical books?
Your physical copies of books. Because you read on your reader a lot, but I know you've been reading your actual books too.
I get around to time too. So, but yeah, you can't beat New Year's Evil, a film that reminds you if you don't love your son. If you make too much money, you're dead.
You'll make your husband angry.
Darn tootin'.
God.
So, I want to say a quick thank you to everybody who has been checking us out, whether it be on the podcast feed at doyouevenmovie.com or over on YouTube. Thank you guys for giving us a watch, giving us a listen. I've noticed that there has been a steady incline in listeners, and I know a lot of you came over from the Freddy's Nightmares podcast. We are happy to have you here.
Absolutely.
And I've been having a great time doing the show too. I also want to mention, if you email us at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com, we'll write back to you right away. Same goes with if you leave a comment on the YouTube video. We will, of course, get back to you right away. We love suggestions, comments, and more coming in from all of you.
And
so, yeah.
To add to that, we could really, really use some reviews on Apple, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Apple Podcasts and Spotify in particular.
Yeah.
Leave us star ratings. You don't even have to write anything. Just the star ratings make a big difference.
Yes.
Also, if you're watching it on YouTube, like, subscribe, of course, all of those good things. We do appreciate you helping us spread the gospel of loving cinema with no shame.
None whatsoever.
So now, Dave, there's only one thing left to do.
What is that?
10, 9, 8, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Happy New Year to everybody who's watching and listening. We really do appreciate you, and we're going to have a whole lot more in 2024.
That we are.
That rhymed!
Hey, you did!
So,
proud of you.
Until next time... I've been Henrique Couto here with whoever this is.
I'm David Denoyer.
And we will talk at you very soon.
Very soon.
Adios.